it's nice to know that you're still with us on AM today. As we promised, that when we're back from that break, we'll be taking on the topic for the day. And what we're looking at is artist management and the entertainment industry in Nigeria. And to discuss this with us is Mr. Emmanuel Oriowo. He's a broadcaster and also an artist manager. It's nice to have you, Mr. Oriowo.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, I'm fine. And you?
Thank you for having me. I'm fine, Chief.
All right, let's hit the ground running. Cases between artists and the management managers or the record label in Nigeria, you know, uh, has been a long time thing. I mean, it's not only a recent thing. Some time ago, we read, of course, in the early days, we read about King Sunny Ade and his management. At some point, that took the intervention of the late Gani Fawemi to actually set him free from the bond of the management of the record label at that time. Some time ago, too, at the wake of the hip hop in Nigeria, we had cases between Two Face and the Kennis music and all that. And on and on like that, we can mention different examples. What really is the problem between record labels and the artists?
Well, thank you very much for having me. First of all, we are talking about this issue this morning as a result of what happened on the 12th of September. I want to begin by saying my condolences to the family of Mohbad. And as a matter of that, I want to say that maybe this will change the narrative of how artists and record labels will be operating in this country. We need to have a structure in place that will help artists function as an artist and that will help record labels to function as a record label, strictly on the business matter. Because come to think of it, when you're looking for an artist, you want to sign up an artist as a management, as an artist management or a record label, of course, you definitely have to, first of all, identify the talent. When you identify the talent, the next thing you want to do is evaluation. When you identify the artist and you want to see the potential in that artist, definitely you have the desire to have the artist on your management, on your label. What you need to do is to go into negotiation. You talk to the artist, you find out what are those things that has to do with his or her capacity or potential that will help your own record label. And in doing that, it means there will be a contract that you people need to sign. And when you sign your contracts, you need to obey them to the letter. Unfortunately, the narrative has changed in recent times and is affecting a lot of artists that has led to so many matters that are not palatable to the ear.
All right, talking about contract now, I think that is the cross of the matter. Because most artists, most times, they are from humble backgrounds, all they wanted at that point was to be heard, and they cared less about the money. Like most times, they do not go to through the details of their contract. What do you think ought to be the disposition of the management? Because most of the time, it tends towards exploitation.
You're right. Because some of the artists are in that frenzy, that I want to blow. They forget to read the details of the contract. They even go to the table to sign a contract without a lawyer. Now, it's not all lawyers that even know about entertainment. You need to get an entertainment lawyer who will guide you, who will be able to read in between the lines to know that, look, these are the pitfalls. We can't go for this. Maybe we need to review these terms and conditions. Because come to think of it, it's very crucial to involve a legal counsel to draft and review the contract. Entertainment lawyers are specialized in music industry contracts, and of course that will help protect the artist and of course protect the management or the record label as it were.
All right, Mr. Rio, well, let's look at the issue of royalties. The basic issue between Mohbad and the Malian Records when he terminated his contract in 2019 was because of his unpaid royalties. Now, we also have issues of logging. I think let's quickly start from the issue of logging. What exactly is logging? Because we've had situations where all these record labels do not give the artist their login, and they complain, oh, I do not have the password to my login. They have all of that. Because I believe that with the issue of logging, they should be able to have access to whatever it is, whether they are royalties or which music they want to release at any point in time, if I'm right.
You see, like that speaks to the contract again, because in the contract, it should be specified as to how to go about their activities from both ends. The artist should have access to virtually everything that he or she deserves as stated in the contract. And the management or the record label needs to also uphold their words by adhering strictly to what the contract states. And if you have a proper guidance of an entertainment lawyer who is going to be your mouthpiece, so to speak, should anything go south, definitely the record label will not want to toy with your royalties or all your benefits. Because come to think of it, you signed up for that particular deal, maybe for 5 years, 5 albums, or for 2 years, 2 albums, and eventually things are not going the way the management are expecting, because they were expecting that the first album will make you blow, and you're not getting they're not getting the investment that they have put on you in terms of maybe signing a contract with you for a particular sum of money, for instance, 100 million naira. And if they invested 100 million naira and in 2 or 5 years for 5 albums or 2 albums, as the case might be, and they're not recouping their money, definitely they want to shut out the artist because they feel that, look, we need to milk this artist so that we can recoup our money. But that is not going to be the case if you have a lawyer and a contract well spelled out. Why will you want to stop your artist from having access to his or her royalty? Because, come to think of it, it has to do with creative effort, working tirelessly, burning the night candles to make sure they have a hit song. And at the end of the day, because of the investment of the management is not, it's not coming up the way they thought it will, they are now trying to say, look, let's play a fast one on this artist. And most of these artists, at the point that they realize, they will say, look, let us back up. I'm not more interested. I'm not in for this contract again. And at that point, they start having issues. So it's disturbing that most of these contracts are not well spelled out. For artists to know their do's and don'ts, for management to also know their do's and don'ts.
All right.
Everything goes out. You should not approach the court for the proper interpretation.
Now, when an artist exits a particular record label and his songs are still being streamed, who collects the royalties at that point?
Okay, that has to do with the termination clauses. You
Yes.
need to spell it out. Of course, all of that will be in the contract. You must read them very well. You must understand all the lines. Because if we're talking about termination of termination clauses in this particular, termination clauses, you need to definitely understand what are the do's and don'ts. What are those circumstances under which either of the party can terminate the contract. This may be as a result of the failure to meet up with the milestone, the expected number of albums that will blow, or the expected number of singles that will attract sponsors, that will attract more money, that will attract shows, that will attract live performances, among other things. If all of that are not happening, definitely, if the contract spells it out, definitely you can terminate the contract. And if, especially, you're not getting your royalties, or even if the performance expectation is below the target of the investors, in this case now, the record label, definitely all of this would have been spelled out in the contract, such that when things don't go the way as desired, or based on the investment of the record label and the managers, definitely they can just come in, put an end to it. So there are a lot of clauses that you need to consider when terminating such contracts. And of course, it has to do with whether accounting or maybe the artist is not living up to expectation.
All right, to prevent the artist from always being at the receiving end, what do you think the government can do by way of regulation, in the entertainment industry?
By way of regulation, I think the government at this point needs to step in bigger. If I say step in bigger, not just having an agency that will oversee the activities of the entertainment industry and they do just earn salaries and they're not professionals. I would want to see a body of experienced entertainers, experienced technocrats in the entertainment business who knows what are expected of them as the regulator, and of course what is expected of any record label who will be signing up on their list as a record company, so to speak. And that would definitely speak to the welfare and the well-being of any artist, because the physical and mental ability of every artist to be factored seen at any point in time. And of course, there will be a work-life balance. You understand? Work-life balance that I think is by encouraging a healthy work life to prevent burnouts from artists or burnouts from the record company as it were, or having the artists demanding over the over of the initial agreements that they have. So if we have a government presence with a robust plan and of course rules and regulations for these record companies, definitely they will not want to toy with it. It's just like we as broadcasters, we have a regulator, the National Broadcasting Commission. When you commit any offense at the radio station or at the TV station, definitely they will raise a red flag and definitely you pay the fines. So when they start placing things like that on record companies, definitely they will not want to misbehave or do anything otherwise.
Now, let's all go back to the issue of Mohbad now. When the contract was signed and it ran its due course, then when the artist left the Malian Records, his music was still being streamed, and he sued them actually because he was accusing them of refusing to pay him his royalties from monetized
Exactly.
intellectual content, and nothing was done. Now, let's come to the issue of obeying the rule of law in Nigeria. We also find our politicians doing the same. When the issue of courts and court gives a judgment, people do not obey it because that's what's playing now. I think we can work around this for people to actually know that the judiciary is the last resort for any situation.
You see, it's very disturbing. And as a Nigerian, I still want to believe that that cliche that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man is still in force. It's almost like a cliche because if you look at the way things are being run in this part of the world, you want to ask yourself a lot of questions. And unfortunately, in the case of Mohbad, a letter was written to the police in that regard. And of course, it was escalated about the threats to his life and all of that. What was the action? Who did what? Who spoke to who invited who? Later, we got another petition coming up again from the other end against Mohbad, asking him to come and ask our questions. So if these things are going without the proper rule of law, that speaks to the strength of the judiciary. And that's what I'm saying. It's disturbing that it is now a cliche that the judiciary is the last of the common man. I'm not saying it's over with the judiciary, but you see, there are lots of forum shopping that you see in the judicial system that is also disturbing. But at this point, I think if we have a department, so to speak, or an agency that is saddled with the responsibility of managing the affairs of this music record labels, and they know that the judiciary will not take it easy with them, definitely there will always be a balance of mind, a balance of contract, a balance of benefits and what have you that is going into every musical contract between the artist and the record label. And we hope that the judiciary will also up their games to look at this industry. Look at the Indians, for instance. Look at the Bollywood. Look at what revenue Bollywood is generating for India as a nation. They don't toy with that industry because it's not a joke. It's a money spinner. And look at the advent of technology now. Look at where it's taking entertainment music into. People streaming their music, people streaming videos and all of that, and they're making money, making the coins. Even the bloggers are also cashing out, by way of promoting all these artist materials and content. So I hope that the judiciary will up their games to also look at this industry to say, look, we will not allow it to be business as usual. The hope of the common man will still be the judiciary. As you just mentioned that in terms of the politicians, we see the forum shopping, bringing injunctions here, bringing in another injunction here. Somebody is saying, I'm going to court. Somebody is saying, I have to do this. Somebody is saying, no. Another court will give an injunction from maybe Katsina. Meanwhile, the jurisdiction is not even close to Katsina. So, all this forum shopping can be disturbing. But I want to believe that if the judiciary can up their games and look at the entertainment industry, especially when the government is showing the body language that, look, we are going to have an agency to manage this industry properly with professionals in place, definitely going to speak well. Because I'm afraid we have a lot of youth who want to go into music industry, who want to jump into entertainment without knowing what is happening. And if they are not sure of what the system has to offer, they might just decide not to want to advance into such industry.
Now, Mr. Oriowo, I am bothered because I'm wondering why, when an artist exits a record label, while they still stream the music, you get to see that the bulk of the money goes to the record label. Is it
which is
not
not supposed to
possible?
be.
Is it not possible for us to have a situation where the artist gets the money and pays off the record label once and for all?
Think of it, it's an intellectual right. Okay, getting royalties is something that every artist needs. Now, if an artist should release a song on a record label or an album on a record label, the terms and conditions are spelled out in the contract, binding both the artist and the record company, which distribution and sales, the cost of marketing that particular album in terms of promotions, radio interviews, reaching out to bloggers, social media content, and all that, just to push that particular album or content, definitely one should understand that the royalties must be paid. And when the royalties are paid, definitely the end result, if the artist wants to terminate such contracts with the recording company, definitely, definitely, a certain amount is expected to the management. So in the first place, investing on the artist, and of course to the artist for providing content. There should be a balance, and that should be well spelled out in their contract.
All right, let's take it on a little bit. Looking at the issue of Mohbad, it has actually exposed some other ills happening in the entertainment industry. For
No doubt.
instance, the indulging of artists and the entertainers in drugs. Alcohol and some other vices like cultism. How can this be sanitized?
You see, this particular area you just touched is I don't even know who started this idea of until you do drugs, you can't blow in the music industry. If you ask most of these artists where they get their inspiration from, they could give you all manner of stories, all manner of disturbing content where they derive their inspirations from. Now, this is how it works in terms of inspiration. You could be thinking or reflecting about your nation, Nigeria, and you are looking at the subsidy, for instance, and you want to write a song. You should speak to the facts about subsidy, the pains, the troubles in your songs. And then at the end of the song production, there must be a message of hope to your fans. That's the understanding of the inspiration that we're supposed to get from every song we listen to. Listen to the likes of Bob Marley. Listen to the likes of Beautiful Nubia. Listen to the likes of Lagbaja. When they sing that kind of song, there's a message there. There's a hope. There's melody. There's craft. There's creativity. All of it coming into one song. But these days, only for people who want to do drugs, they get high, then they change the concept of the song to really make it danceable. There are so many songs these days you listen to, they are crap songs that you can't even listen to them in the next 5 years. You can listen to them in the next 10 years. So it's disturbing that, in fact, there was this one I saw, they started a gang beat. The Amapiano was also expected to be a gang beat, so to speak, but some people just enjoy the beat because of how it sounds, and we leave it there. But for some people to now feel that, look, this is our kind of is that cultism is coming in, and before you know it, rituals, because some contracts are not even signed. Some
Exactly.
contracts in signing up an artist are just adoption by saying, hey, you're not one of us, that's our family. Hey, you're now one, we're now brothers, we're now. So that speaks to a very negative part of it. It should be strictly business. If you have an inspiration about a song, you go write your song, produce your song, and let it reach out to your fans. You don't need to do drugs. You don't need to do rituals. You don't need to do autism because it's not going to help anybody at the end of the day. It's a very sad one that happened on the 12th of September when we lost Mohbad. But I just hope that there will be a new narrative for our music industry stakeholders to start shaping what is expected of our music industry. Cultism, drugs, rituals, it's not going to do anyone any good at the end of the day. It's not going to do anyone any good because, come to think of it, if a song is good, it's good. If it's not good, take it to anywhere. Then just drop it in the gutters.
All right, let's also look at the issue of Olamide and Temi. Um, Recall that Temi has been dragging him on social media recently following the bad management experience with Mohbad. She also said Olamide and his wife had to move her into their house, treating her like
And
their
she
house
became a
help. And
she became a house help.
yes, and she hurls insult at her at any point in time. Now, my question is, why should an artist have to share the same space with a record label leader or whatever? Because I'm wondering, because you signed me, do I have to move into your house? Do we have to live together? Because we also experience the same thing with Zinoleski. He shares the same space basically with Naira Marley almost every now and then. Why should it be like that?
You see, the artist needs to, first of all, know him or herself. And when you know yourself as an artist, definitely you have it spelled out in your mind what you want. And that speaks to the level of discipline that you want to bring into play. Some artists, the moment they get signed onto the record label, they see the CEO of that record label as their mini god. They want to loiter around him or her always because of the money. Maybe she's picking up their bills, or the record label as the management is picking up the bills. So they loiter around that. I recall, there was this group of artists I was promoting some 15 years ago. I don't want to mention their name now. Your producer knows the artist I'm talking about. Now, those guys, I discovered that each time I go to Lagos, they are always around the office complex of their record label. I was asking one day, I said, guys, now they go house. Now here I always be. And they were like, Baba, like, they here now. They take care of us. Don't you have your contract well spelled out so that you should have your home, you should have... So the artist needs to know themselves, what do they want? Upon signing you on, I understand, you know, when I said you identify the artist first, when you see the potential, you definitely know the problems. And upon knowing the problems of the artist, maybe it's going to go into your contract or the benefits you want to offer to take care of such artists. So in that point, maybe you spell it out that, look, I'll be getting you a 3-bedroom flat. I will get you a Toyota Corolla. I will get, maybe you put the year and model. I'll be getting you a particular amount for stipend and for your wardrobe. All these things need to be spelled out. For most of these artists, out of that frenzy, they just jump on the deal and they start loitering around the CEO or whosoever is handling the record company. And before you know it, they become errand boys and girls to the record label. And most of them, when they get their own managers, as personal managers to manage them, they don't even listen to the manager. They believe the CEO of the record label has the final say. Mind you, an experienced manager will know how to tell the artist that, look, you can't take this. For instance, if I manage an artist and is supposed to perform at a show, and I was told it's for charity, only for me to get there and see that there's a mobile telecommunication branding such charity event, and they expect my artist to play for that kind of a fee that they pay, maybe a ridiculous amount of money, because they felt charity will lure us to come and perform. I'm going to tell my artist not to get to that stage. That's the truth. Because if I'm looking at the mobile telecommunication branding around that place, then we need to go back to the drawing board to talk about the fee. What is supposed to be the actual pay if you are sponsoring this particular event? Yes, it's a charity, but as a mobile network now that you are sponsoring this event, I'm bringing my artist to play here. Let's talk about the terms and conditions, and then we review the money, and then my artist will be fine as a manager. But sometimes because the CEO knows the record label and the mobile telecommunication company, and they want to do party things, and the manager too, because he's an errand boy to the artist, because he doesn't have the audience, then we'll have problems. So if the lady should stay in the house and end up performing the role of a house help, did not define herself from the beginning. She didn't set out her terms and conditions from the beginning. So anything just goes.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Oriowo. But before we let you go, I'd like to ask this on a final note. What do you see Nigerians' attitude towards people who are calling up for help, crying out? Because obviously, after the death of Mohbad, we began to see that the boy has been depressed, he's been crying for help, he's been saying what he's going through, and he didn't get respite until he lost his soul.
Fantastic. You see, another thing is this. Um, music fans, sometimes hardly into the lyrics of an artist. They fall first, or they are attracted first to the beat. When they are attracted maybe to the frenzy around the artist, the success of the artist, and they don't even try to listen to the lyrics to understand. Most people didn't know what happened until the passing of Mohbad. Then I went back to the lyrics, you understand, to start thinking that, oh, there were warning signals, there were red flags. So how come we didn't help this man? How come we didn't listen to him? Unfortunately, look at how the whole story ended. So if you listen to the lyrics of every song, sincerely, you will understand the mindset of that artist at the point of writing that song and recording that song. Because these warning flags, these red flags are always there, not just for music artists alone. Not just for music artists alone, even footballers. You understand? Anything that has to do with creative content, people have warning signals. Even as broadcasters, sometimes you are in the low because depression is real. People go through all manner of things, and they find a way to interpret them. They find a way to express them. How do you express them? Are they doing it better?
Okay.
Are they doing it to get to the proper ears for correction to be made?
All right.
Let us imagine that we can take back the hands of time to perhaps the 10th of September, knowing what we already knew now, and imagine what will happen to Mohbad before 12.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Oriowo, for answering our call this morning and for this engaging engagement. Thank you very much. We hope to call you some other time.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
All right. Yes, dear viewer, this we're going to take a short break now, and when we're back from that break, we'll be taking on our next step of discussion. Don't go away.